You know, what I really love about Western Brewing is how they meld the past, the history of Paul's Bow, with modern brewing technology and just some damn cool people.
Great people, great staff here.
Yeah.
But what impresses me the most, they took their past and rolled it in here with these tables and,
That's what I'm talking about.
And decor.
Hey.
Welcome, Eric. Jeff.
How are you?
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. So why don't we start with a walk through the brewing operation and talk about the equipment and what you got going on right now, and then finish up here.
All right.
All right. So
Let's go this direction.
You know, rumor has it that you started making beer behind a sawmill.
Yeah, we grew up, my dad and I, in our brewing world. We ran a sawmill before this, and it was just our weekend fun, brewing beer and right behind the sawmill. And, you know, if you got a little sawdust in the beer, it was just added to the character.
Exactly, a little cellulose never
Right?
hurt anybody. What, was this your first setup here?
That's where we started. My dad and I built this from the ground up. My dad's quite the welder, so we copied a few pictures, right? And so this is a 10-gallon system. Our hot liquor tank up here, down to our mash tun, down to our boil kettle, just a gravity through system. You boil on into our fermenters.
Yep.
We had 4 fermenters, and for home brewers, we were making probably more than we should have.
I'm sure you found a way to get rid of all
Well,
that.
yeah, exactly. Kind of why we had to start this place. People got going, well, you got to get more, and
It's difficult for, we've talked to a number of breweries, it's difficult to take the next steps up.
it is. For us, it was easier than some. You know, some people work for a day job somewhere and they don't understand the business side of things and what that looks like. For us, we'd always owned our own business.
Yeah.
A multi-million-dollar sawmill to a multi-million-dolor brewery wasn't a big step for us. We weren't scared of the numbers. We weren't scared of the size. We understood sourcing product. We understood the volume needs. We just didn't understand.
Massive advantage.
It was. We definitely had our uphill climbs in a lot of different things, you know, how to actually brew the beer. But the business side of things came second nature to us.
Excellent. You know, 2 years of this pandemic now, and things are starting to mellow out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is probably a little more valuable than what's in Fort Knox right now. Because aluminum shortage, oh my God, you have got a
Yeah,
here.
yeah, it's definitely a big deal right now for a lot of people. We were blessed with a big space and able to store. So when this all took off and things looked like they were going to get tight, we purchased a big lot of cans, a whole container load, and trying to keep our supply chain fed all the time.
That's a very smart way to do things.
Yeah.
I think that comes from your guys' background in the sawmill.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Very much
I know a
so.
lot of guys that buy small amounts and can't get it or pay an incredible price for it.
Yeah, we were able to get these cans as cheap as anyone because of the volume we were able to take.
How many different labels do you have?
For the most part, we have 5 different mainstays that you're going to see in the Safeways and the other little grocery stores and things that you're going to see all the time. We have a few seasonals that, you know, they're seasonals, right? We're only going to have them once a year. We have about 5 or 6 of those. We have some specialty items and things. 15 is too many to try and put on any shelf at any one time. So we really focus on 5 different beers that you can find anywhere. We don't usually put all 5 beers in any store because you have those markets that are going to be lager heavy, or you have those markets that are going to be dark beer heavy. And to throw my dark beer in a lager market would be
Waste of everybody's time.
Absolutely. That's going to cost the store time and money. It's going to cost me time and money because I'm going to end up pulling that stuff off because we have a date coder. I make sure that my product stays fresh and in the market where it's supposed to be. And
that's one of the lesser points that people that are pitching pennies don't seem to pick up on. Your beer is best when you drink it fresh.
Absolutely.
Beer is so fresh.
Yeah.
Tell us what we have over here. Where do we start?
Well, so
process.
Our system, because of the design of how our building laid out, is kind of back and forth. Our center tank is our mash tun. That's where it all starts.
Yeah.
That's our cooking process. our fermenters are our stall point at this point, but we've added or set up our system to where I can add more fermenters right out through the room.
Down the road. Yeah.
Anytime. Plug and play. Our plumbing's all set up for it. Our control system is all set up for it. It's a matter of adding a couple pipes and some low voltage, and boom, I've got more production.
Well, I noticed some wine barrels down here. Why don't you tell us about your special projects there?
This is one of those things that I don't know if a person makes a ton of money on doing big barrel aged stuff, but it's my passion. So when my investment team saw that we were growing and we were being successful, and I was working really hard, they said, we want you to have something that's just for you.
Something fun.
Something fun. So we have a small barrel aging program. Right now I do 3 different types of beer in various different styles of barrels, from red wine barrels to bourbon barrels. That was a maple barrel.
I see that.
It was a rum barrel, then it was a maple barrel, and now it's aging our export stout. It makes it very fun, very complex.
So when you export south, you still could buy it here. It's not all exported.
Export. So
Export style, right?
Well, this goes back to our logging. Everything we do is basically logging themed, all our names. Well, export is a style of stout, but export in the logging world was the highest quality, the best logs export. So it was kind of our play on words when we named that one. It's both a style, it's the name, it tells our
the melding of the two worlds here.
Yeah.
That's one of our favorite things after the beer.
Thank you.
The thing I've noticed about your beers is the impeccable balance. I mean, all the components are there, but they're layered. Nothing gets muddy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I'm very impressed with.
Thank you.
In fact, all this talk about beer is making me a little thirsty. Maybe we should go try.
All right, let's go to the tap room and get some.
You said you've developed it for families. Dogs are welcome. I mean, this is a beautiful room. Beautiful room.
Thank you.
I mean, your logger family, sawmill people, really came in handy.
This was a lot of fun to build. I actually personally did 100% of the build out here.
Really?
Grew up, my family grew up in construction, doing everything ourselves. Being loggers, you didn't have a ton of money to hire it all done. And the sawmill, we were able to cut all of our own wood, and I got elected to be the guy that did all the build out, and it was a lot of fun. And so it gets to be home for me, not just the tap room. It's home.
It shows. Yeah,
Thank you.
It really shows.
All right.
What do we have here?
So we talked about those 5 beers that we're keeping out. This is one of those 5 beers. This is our American lager. This is Little Tugger. Very light, very refreshing.
That's nice.
Thank you.
There's a resurgence in the local market of lagers and kolsches, and this is a really nice one.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I've worked very hard on this. I felt that as a brewer, IPAs are great, and they have won the craft beer market. However, not everybody is a craft beer drinker. And if we ever hope to pull some of that big beer market, we have to make a beer. Exactly. We have to make a beer that those drinkers understand. It's not that they are in love with the company, it's that they're in love with that light beer.
And that's what they know.
It's exactly. So you hand them something super hoppy, they're going to go, I'm not a craft beer guy. But with this,
step them up.
Yeah, it's got a little more flavor.
While he's pouring, tell us about the names on these mugs that you've got.
So this is our mug club. Once a year, we sell spots to this. There's only 155 spots, period. There will never be any more. So the only way to get into this mug club at this point is if somebody does not renew. Usually, there's a line the day of. There's not very many spots. This year, I think we had 13 spots come available. And so you have to know somebody, and it's very difficult to get into our mug club at this point.
Like a lottery.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Or like a super exclusive club.
Exactly. There you go. So this is our our mainline red. When we set out to build this place with a name like Western Red Brewing, everybody expected us to have a red.
Yeah.
So we put quite a bit of time and effort to try and make a red. You know, there's been some really good ones done over the years, and they've kind of fallen off. So we've put it on ourselves to make sure we had a good one available all year round, anytime, and it's not, tries back to that balance you talked about. We try to keep this one very, very balanced. Nice caramel notes, nice hop notes, not too much, not too
It
little.
was so delicious that I couldn't hold on to it. It just exploded in my palate and the bar. That's a beautiful red. You're right. It's elegant. It's well balanced. It's got enough hops for someone who likes IPAs to enjoy, but it's also not overwhelming.
All right, let's go a little bit darker. Let's move up to. Okay, I'm gonna take you guys a little bit up and a little bit down. I'm not gonna send you my APA next. I'm gonna send you my powder wedge. It's a little bit porter. It's a little bit light for a porter, but makes it more drinkable. Makes it so that people can have two. And I'm not gonna just totally burn out your taste buds on my IPA just yet. We'll get there. Jeff, one for you.
So this is also 24. I spilled the last one, so they're not letting me.
Eric's cut off.
You cut off? That's fine. More for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, look how pretty that looks. That is beautiful, beautiful color.
So this beer is what got us into brewing in the first place. My dad and I are big dark beer fans. There's a lot of really well done dark beers out there. There's a lot of really badly done dark beers out there. Some brewers just think that you can throw some dark grains at a beer and call it good. For us, there was more to it than that. There's a lot of complexity, and it's easy to get lost in dark. So we try to keep our dark beers a little bit on the lighter, not as heavy.
And they're very approachable.
Exactly. Well, what you want is that person to come in and have two beers. You know, that's my goal in the tap room. Two beers. You know, if they have three, great. If they have one, well, you know, that we just didn't fulfill the experience for them, in my opinion. But if you come in with this big, heavy, dark, overpowering beer, they typically don't have two. I do have that on my menu. I have some big, heavy, overpowering dark beers if you want that. But this is my everyday go-to dark beer. I love dark beers, but I want to have two. That's what I designed when I built this beer.
Well, you designed well because it's a beautiful beer.
Thank you.
It seems to have a little more carbonation than a lot of porters I see, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that comes through to, since it is lighter in mouthfeel, it shows more. Exactly. It's really hard to take a big syrupy stout or porter and put enough carbonation on it to really, it just doesn't hold in there like that.
Makes sense.
It makes it a really fun, easy drinking beer. Really like this one.
I really like that. I like all your beers so far.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to start down the hoppy road.
I like that one.
We're not going to go all the way to my West Coast IPA, which is our #1 selling IPA. In fact, we've landed it in some pretty big accounts, and I'm struggling to keep up with it.
Is that the single buck?
Yes, it's done very well in a lot of markets. But I am not a huge hophead, so for me, I had to build something that was a little bit less. So I took a traditional West Coast IPA style, and I backed it off till it met pale style. So this is our Tailhold Pale. It's a dry hopped pale.
Nice color.
It's light enough in the hop market that you can drink it without just totally annihilating your taste buds. But it's still got that nice floral note and stuff to it that makes it fun, and most IPA drinkers will totally enjoy this beer.
Wow, that's much different. I like it. I do like the hop monsters too, but I just have one of those. I can
Exactly.
drink this all night. Yeah.
I've geared a lot of our main beers towards that style, that all the time beer. I have the huge hop monsters. I have the huge double. I have the big, dark, heavy beers as well. 20 taps, I'm allowed to play with whatever I want, essentially. But we find that that customer wants to come in and listen to music here or come in and chat with their friends, back to that 2 beers or 3 beers. You know, they want to have something that they can have 2 or 3 of and not feel overly heavy or like they just ate a gallon of hot sauce and their mouth is on fire type of thing. You know, those are, if I come in and I'm drinking a hoppy, I start here, I go to our standard West Coast, and then I finish up with our double. And, you know, it's pick and choose which beer you're going to drink last. So
I always staircase up.
yep. So the next beer I'm going to hand you guys is our West Coast IPA, our single buck. That's very floral, very fun, and I've tried.
Very recognizable.
Very much so. It's when you think Western Red, it is probably, if you've seen our beer out in places, that's the beer you've seen first before anything else. I mean, we're on the West Coast where IPAs rule, right? It's
And that's a compliment to you.
well, thank you. It's especially for a guy who's not a big hophead. You know, there are those brewers out there that absolutely love hops. I had to learn to enjoy hops. When I first started brewing,
Dark beer background.
exactly, I was a wine drinker long before I was a beer drinker. So I started into wine, then I moved into barrel-aged beer. I found that barrel-aged, oh, that can have some of the same tastes of wine, and it can be fun. So hops came second to me. I spent a lot of time drinking IPAs, even though I didn't want to, because it took me a long time to train my palate to discern what hops really worked and what hops work together in an IPA market.
That's how you do it. That's how you learn
Absolutely.
the nuances, by putting as many beers in your mouth as you can.
Right. Absolutely.
So this is the single buck.
Mhm.
Again, that nice color. Ah, floral on something that has.
This is almost always our #1 selling beer every day in this tap room.
I'm not surprised. That's a nice wine. About 3 or 4 seconds into the palate, I get this maltiness. It's not sweet, but almost. And then the hops show up. Go, hey,
Yeah.
I'm still here.
How you doing?
Yep.
You're drinking an IPA here.
Yeah, exactly. I might have to swallow some.
Well, I wasn't going to swallow a lot of this stuff, but damn.
Thank you.
You're all leg.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but I got to drive home.
It's one of the things I think I've done unique in some of our beers, well, all of our beers. I tried to reach outside the box for our base malt. Most people use just a standard 2-row. I used to use a grain called full pint.
I've read references to that, but
It's-
is that really rare
Well,
or not used a lot?
no, it's not used a lot. It's got some really good characters of like cracker or biscuit, and it comes through in that malty note without being sweet.
Right.
Um,
That's what I was picking up.
The farmers didn't like the yields, so it has become impossible for me to get anymore. So now I had to go back to the drawing board because I had built all these grain beers around that base malt. It took me a bit, but fortunately my friends over at Country Malt Group helped me out, and we figured out how to come up with a grain they carry on a regular basis for my base malt. And might surprise you, but it is all a Pilsen malt. Almost every beer I make has a Pilsen malt, but it's superior Pils, and it gives me that cracker-like or biscuit-like note to the background of my beers, which comes through even in a big hoppy beer. You still pick up the grain, because I always want, my palate is, I want you to drink a beer and I want you to go, oh, those are the grains he used. Those are the hops he used. Oh, those are the, whatever adjuncts I might have used in there. I want you to be able to pick up all the different things and not just have it this blend of a flavor. I mean, yes, it's blended, but it's, that 15 seconds you were talking about.
Right.
I love that about beer. I love complexity and
It's not in your face. It's not, slapping you around, but it's still dancing in my mouth. 20 seconds later, and I'm finding that same kind of elegance here.
It's fun. That's what I love about brewing. The complexity I can get. You know, I built my brew house around the complexity that I wanted to put into my beer. It makes it just fun, you know. And when somebody like you sits down who understands those complexities and goes, I taste this and I taste that, I'm like, yes, okay, I did it. You know, it may not always win style awards. It may not be perfect style, but it's complex and fun. And guys who enjoy beer will go, yeah, I got that. And I go, yes, that's what I wanted to do. So, and
Well done, sir. Well
thank you.
done.
Thank you. Okay, now it's dealer's choice. You guys want to go to a big barrel age? Do you want to go to a double IPA?
Finish with a big barrel age,
Perfect.
but I want to compare a double IPA to this IPA.
Okay, absolutely. So this was a challenge for me. Double IPAs are a struggle in that by the time you get that much alcohol, it's almost hard to get that much hops in it because it starts to get overwhelmed by the grain notes. So it took me a while, several versions to come up with a double IPA that I thought was worth serving. This one, I remember I said I'm not a big hop head.
Yep.
This is the beer that I will come in, if I'm only gonna have one, this is the beer I actually come in and order now. And I am not a big IPA hop head.
I really like that beer. And
Thank you.
haven't finished tasting it yet. My goodness. There's something about the full mouth feel to a higher alcohol like this
Mhm.
I just really enjoy. Not very often.
That, in comparison to that tail hold, I feel like the hops feel almost at the same type of realm.
Yeah, same balance.
Guess how many IBUs are in that one?
Tastes like about 85, but I would say from you,
Nailed it. It is actually 85. Yeah, it is actually spot on. Well done, Eric. Well done. Yeah, it's but they say you drink that side by side with the single or the tail hold, and you go, oh, they all kind of taste about the same, and that kind of stair steps up with the malt and the alcohol and everything, and it just kind of works together.
Step up, step up.
so I think probably pick us one last bourbon barrel aged, and let's
Okay.
have a red rye there.
So I have our Scotch ale in bourbon barrels, but both maple. And then I have, actually probably my favorite is the bourbon barrel export stout.
Well, I want to taste your favorite because you have very good taste.
Look at the color.
It's a beautiful color.
This beer doesn't get overly complex like the maple cognac does. You can get lost in that beer. This beer gives you everything that a stout has with a little bit of that bourbon note in the background, that vanilla notes that you get from the oak. It's just,
Ooh, that's unexpected.
I didn't expect that note.
Savory in the nose instead of sweet. That's what I'm trying to pick out.
Yeah.
So the umami, is that how you say it?
Oh, the
Yeah.
umami with
Yeah.
umami. Yeah.
this is where my true passion comes in. I love brewing, but to be able to barrel age, I mean, my wife said I had to open a brewery partly because my barrel age refrigerator was costing us way too much money. You know, I'm the kind of person that I walk in and I see, oh, Fremont's Rusty Nails available. Oh, I want 5 of those. 1 for now, 1 to share with friends, and 1 to put on the shelf, and then 2 just because. You know, I always buy in lots of 5, and at $25 a bottle for a 22-ounce bottle, my wife said, okay, you got to do something. So it didn't really slow me down, right?
So it was a brewery instead.
Right.
Explain to me the mid palate because it's very unique. It's like it starts out low and then it's like cruises a long time until it gets to the finish. How would you describe it?
That's a good description. I think that comes in the aging process. A lot of breweries will, I mean, we have a ton of money invested into that beer.
Sure.
I mean, between all the malt and everything that goes into it, now we got the barrels and all that stuff. So what I see with a lot of young breweries is they want to rush that. I got so much into this beer. I gotta get some cash flow. Well, cash flow is important. Let me tell you, I know all about cash flow problems, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the quality. So my stuff sits 10 to 12 months, almost. I mean, and I'm tasting it all the time, so I know, because there's the right amount of time, there's a little too much time, and then there's way past gone.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do way past gone. And I think that with this barrel-aged beer, you get all that fun stuff in the beginning that the beer had. Then, where some people will rush it, you get this high alcohol taste to it. If you let that mellow, and that's what the time does.
That's what I was referring.
And it's that mellow time in there. And then you pick up the end. In the end, I feel like you pick up the vanilla, the tannins from the barrel and stuff. And with a spirit barrel, especially, you get so much of that spirit notes to it. If you don't let it take its time, it's harsh. So for us, keeping that harshness down is important.
This is a stunning beer. It really is. Gonna have to swallow some of this.
I'm gonna finish this one. It's like it climbs, then it dips. Then it
Plateaus, not dips.
climbs. Well, I call it a plateau. And then it starts climbing again.
Yeah.
And that's what we're
Thank
getting
you.
in the finished product. They know all the numbers.
Right?
Right? You're not a...
I don't want to leave a message, I just want to talk to them.
Well, is there anything you'd like to tell our viewers about your brewery or your beers? I think we've covered your passion and how well you do it.
Thank you. You know, we're just, big thing for us is that we are community orientated. We do a lot of fundraising type things here. We just do friends here. I've made so many friends. I sit here and drink beer way more than I should, because I meet guys like Eric and Jeff who just want to come out and hang out and have a beer. That's what we built. We want a place where people come, hang out. You know, you can find me, you can find Rob, you can find my wife, you can find a ton of people who are here all the time, just hanging out, having a good time, being part of the community, and supporting everybody through all of this. You know, the last 2 years of the pandemic, you know, we tried to stay open and be supportive anywhere we could. We are all about keeping each other in the community going. So,
I agree, and this is that place.
thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a true
Thank you, Eric.
pleasure.
Jeff,
Great.
thank you.
Thanks again.